a real issue. And
but because you say Dennis, it's a team.
Dennis and his team, yes.
I've read a list of a
Dennis
good number
and
of
his
people,
team, yes.
right?
Dennis and his team.
So would you say Dennis Law?
Dennis Law,
right.
yes. Dennis and his team. They really put this together, and it's very commendable. So yes, so we are not saying that the 80% the Registrar of General has stated out, if it's correct, means that 80% of the marriages are not valid in the eyes of God. That's not what we are saying. If you did, in fact, this is a subject of another debate that Islamic scholars would argue about. I'm sure you can host 4 programs because issues come up about how we celebrate our marriages these days, the Islamic prescription, and then the cultural bits that we mix together and all of that. So, that's another subject. But what we are saying is that, so if you do it before the Islamic prescriptions, before God, perhaps in the eyes of Allah, your marriage is valid. But in the eyes of the law
of Ghana,
if you don't register within 1 week as stipulated by the law, it is not valid. And the courts have consistently upheld that because the provision is very clear. You must register within 1 week, failing which it is invalid. In Remia, I think they managed to produce a marriage certificate. And so the law said that it was valid because the certificate was there. I'm wondering how they got it. Perhaps in the 60s, in the 80s, we had registered priests.
So she's referring to a case that went to court and was concluded, and it's titled Remia and Remia. Right. Now, when you say, and people are listening and say, you are saying the law says within 1 week from the day that the marriage was celebrated.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So, Muslim marriages are usually done on Sundays. Sometimes it can be a week-long affair. If you are the bride, you know that for 2 weeks or a month, you are preparing for your marriage and then into the marriage. But on the Sundays, that is when, for most people, I'm sure other people do Saturdays, but usually Sundays. So Sunday, that is where family will gather. They will perform the Islamic rites, which is the payment of the bride price, and then the tying of the knots in the mosque, or they call the religious clerics to come and recite the Quran and pray, and then tie the knot between the man and the woman. And then after that, the parties and the dancing and the celebration and all of that. That is what we call the marriage. And this is usually done on the Sundays. So so the Sunday, it means that by the law, 7 days after the celebration. So I'm sure it counts on that Sunday, 7 days. The law didn't even state whether it's 7 working days or just 7 days. So I'm sure
within.
It says within
a week.
Within a week. So between the Sunday and the next Sunday, you must have registered.
So the very last day that you do the activity, that finishes the process of the marriage.
Yes.
You start counting 1 week from that day.
Yes.
Then you have to go and register it.
Yes.
If you do not register it within that 1 week, that's why Ghana law says that marriage is invalid.
However, there's a provision that says that you can go to the High Court by motion for the court to extend the time within which you can register.
It says you go ex parte.
Yes.
Meaning you can go alone. You don't
need to serve anybody.
It's a simple process.
It is you and your husband. You have now become a couple.
Okay.
And so you don't need to give anybody notice that you want to, to register your marriage. So you go ex parte, apply to the High Court, and then the High Court may, on terms, grant leave for extension of time. I think there's one of those decided cases where the wife, after the death of the husband, went to court seeking to get the marriage extension of time to register the marriage. Unfortunately for her, the man had died, and this was 34 years after the marriage was, was celebrated. So the court said, "Look, at this point, it's too long. It's unreasonable time." Again, the man is dead. There's nothing to register.
Hold on there.